Hey, everybody, welcome back. My name is Todd Wall. This is Communication Breakthrough, where we believe that intentional communication will lead to the breakthrough you're looking for in your business and in your life. Get your motors ready. Get ready to rev things up, because today we are going to take an in-depth look at what does it take to build a high-performance team. You got to get under the hood. Let's look at this together. Here we go. Stick with us. All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm excited to really jump into this because really the speed of play in today's market is more critical than it ever has been in history. And so whether you've inherited a team or you've made an investment in a new hire, increasing the speed in which we can get to high performance is absolutely critical. My first guest today is Ryan Conn with CS Business Consultants. Let me bring him on now. Ryan, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Todd. It's a pleasure to be here in the studio with you. Thank you for having me.
Actually, it's this evening. I don't know why I said this morning, but either way, it's great to talk to you, Ryan. Hey, Ryan, so you've had 12 years in high-level training in law enforcement, some high-level FBI training, and you've transitioned that not only into a CPA firm where you massively increased the margins, created a leadership paradigm that many firms are copying, but now with CS Consultants, you're really helping share that knowledge and help build structure and increase those margins and the speed to performance. So with this problem we've got on hand, Ryan, whether it's a new hire or you've inherited a team, how do you approach that? How do you increase the speed of high performance?
A wonderful question, and one that many people are struggling to ask. It is certainly not the first time I've had that one. The importance of establishing yourself on a team comes early on, and the earlier the better that you can establish certain qualities and certain expectations and boundaries, the faster that team is going to be influenced and then influence others to become high performing. One of the things that I really try to coach people, one of the philosophies is called the first 4 hours. And in the first 4 hours, you have to deliver, of course, some of the essential things like orientation, how to log in, getting the policies that's going to govern that employee's daily actions. But most importantly, what is the leader going to be doing to influence you? And we use a tool called a leadership philosophy. And that leadership philosophy gives the new hire or the new team your leadership brain on a piece of paper. It is how you're going to function, how you're going to think, how your decisions are going to be made. And what allows the acceleration to happen is the culture is established and the expectations are established of how to please the leader, how to not disappoint the leader with pet peeves, all from the starting point, that first 4 hours of walking in the door and you taking over the team or them arriving on your team as a new staff member or hire.
So you're saying really to increase the speed, just shorten the time gap, it begins with just setting really clear expectations. First off, the lay of the land. You have improving here's my name badge. Here's what are in informing of the lay of the land, the structure of the business. What are some specifics you really walk through with that? Let's go through that first.
Absolutely. So the specifics go with, again, understanding how is the leader going to lead? What are my core values? What are the characteristics in which I'm going to embody my leadership and try to draw influence into you and the team? Expectations on everything from timeliness, delivery, the expectation or the boundary to say you can do this and go ahead and take the initiative, giving that permission to somebody to go ahead and move forward, and then having an expectation in this first 4 hours that if I am gone, if I am absent, you can literally look at this piece of paper and compare the decision you have to make to my philosophy, and guaranteed if you follow that philosophy, you will make the correct decision in my absence. That speeds it up so much because now I can work myself through the honeymoon phase. I don't have to try to be all excited for a year or 15 months before morale dips. I can be excited forever because I know the exact expectations. That goes down to what is a priority to me about being on time, or how to respond to clients, or communication in between staff and the level of professionalism or organic communication that you have. And then again, how to get the work done in a value-based style, not just the data on the screen or taking the widgets from A to B.
I love what you're saying so much. Not only the value-based style, but you're providing a target and expectations for that they can operate with. It sounds like it provides not only clarity of, like you said, it gets through the honeymoon stage. Either you recognize quickly this person isn't the right fit for us very quickly, or also it gets them, it just speeds that process through these expectations and clarity. So get a little more tactical with me.
Sure.
Talk me through a little bit more specifically. Now, first off, to be fair, you lead companies through how to walk through these first 4 hours on a consistent basis, and that's a specific way people can really that do work with you on a consistent basis. So let us steal some of your information.
Absolutely.
So talk me tactically, because you've got that tactical background. Tactically, talk me through these first 4 hours. Let's go. Gotcha. Hour one, first off.
So hour one, we do a very deliberate action of welcoming the person on their first day. We welcome the person in with donuts, muffins, fruit, whatever it is, and we receive that new employee. That is a definitive thing we do every time a new person comes on board. The immediate reception, we walk them around and we introduce them to every person in their division or on their team, and they get to say hi, shake hands, exchange a couple of pleasantries. And then we introduce them to their office, their workspace. And then they're brought from their workspace to a leader's workspace, usually a manager or supervisory level. And they start some of the more traditional things. Hey, real quick, we got to run through some policy. Hey, real quick, here's your logins, here's your passwords. Some of those tactical things happen. But within the first 4 hours, I am on the calendar, I am on the agenda, and I will be sitting down with that employee for at least 30 minutes to go through who I am, what my background is, the most important things about me, not just the titles, not just any pedigree. And I tell you certain things that really will hit hard. Like in the first 4 hours, I make sure that every employee knows, hey, here's a hard conversation. At some point, I'm going to disappoint you. I'm going to let you down. I'm going to make a mistake or do something wrong. And their eyes get really big. And I say, I hope that happens as little as possible, but I'm human, it's going to happen. I also know that you are going to let me down. At some point, you're gonna make a mistake, you're gonna have an error, you're gonna do something that ruffles my feathers. I'm gonna give you grace, I'm human, give me grace. And if we can do that, you can literally watch the people melt. And this huge burden of having to show up and be perfect on the first day is eliminated. That
it sounds like you're really establishing a lot of relational safety early on.
Absolutely, 100%. That is a part of the theme that is going on, is that you are safe to be your best version of yourself. Ooh. And I give them permissions. You have permissions to take certain initiatives in these areas. And here's a really good one. This comes from my SWAT background. I was on SWAT for well over 10 years, a SWAT team leader, high-level tactical missions, a lot of danger involved. And the most rookie member of my team who finally got certified to make entries with the team, we did a big debriefing. I thought I had all the information I needed. He was the last officer to ever go to that location. After the entire debriefing, he raised his hand, kind of looking around the room, raising his hand, and said, hey, Sarge, you don't have all the information. I said, tell me. Well, The bad guy had completely rearranged his home, and we were going to have a fight through physical objects getting in the home when we could literally just use a different entrance, different approach, and get in there smoothly. We did just that. And the expectation that allowed him to raise his hand as the new guy to a 10-year seasoned veteran tactical leader was that I expect, when I have inaccurate information or incomplete information, that you draw that to my attention. So he received that from my leadership philosophy on his first 4 hours on the team, and the end result of that tactical operation is he likely saved lives that day.
And so increasing the speed involves not only that safety, but the permission to be yourself, to step
Correct.
into, we hired you because we believe you're great. We need your input, your influence. And so really stating that permission early on, you're saying really increases the speed of effectiveness.
100%. So going along with we want your input, something that's very common, especially along the generational gap, is, hey, we've been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years. Just get in here and this is the way we've always done that. Well, that can be a pretty dangerous mindset to a business that wants to grow or be proactive in any capacity. On the same token, when you give somebody permission to bring up their ideas, you can't just take everything they have to offer. So one of our rules in that first 4 hours, we are interested in your ideas. I'm going to listen to your ideas, okay? And I'm going to take them for thought. But one of the things that must occur is you have to try it our way first. Before you find a better way or ask us to change, you have to at least have tried it our way first. And sometimes I'll say 30 days or 30 projects or 3 months. And if it's still not working, you've truly hit the stride of doing it our way, we're going to try implementing your idea, and it may change the entire team or the entire company, depending on what the idea is.
So you're providing the permission to speak up, but also a structure so that they don't feel like, hey, I'm just going to give an initial idea, and if you don't act on it, then it takes them, it kind of knocks them down a peg. So by knowing what the road looks like, again, there's more safety because they know there's actually an order to things.
Right, and it sounds like you caught the expectations as well, because I want your ideas, and I can't take everyone's idea all the time. I don't even agree with myself 100%, right? So I have to work things out. So I also put the expectation that we're going to listen to your idea, but it doesn't mean I have or I can implement and use them all.
Before we get into your leadership principles, what other expectations or key along this idea of safety and expectations, what else do you really try to implement in that first 4 hours?
That's great. So in that first 4 hours, I take a lot of accountability. There are heavy expectations. There's heavy value on, I value, timeliness. Be on time for work. Don't show up at 8 o'clock. Be ready to service a client at 8 o'clock, right? That's different. So if you're rolling in the door at 7:59, 8 o'clock, and your computer's not on and you're not ready to answer the phone, I'm going to talk to you about that. I also tell them I'm going to try to organically address everything. I want to keep a short account of what's going on here. So I'm not going to let things linger and then at your bi-yearly eval ding you with 3 things that you didn't know you were doing wrong. I'm going to keep short accounts. Me or the supervisor are going to say, hey, by the way, let's work on this, let's tweak this. And maybe I don't need to make a note of it, or maybe I do. And then by the time your 6-month eval comes, hey, remember those 2 little coaching sessions? Hey, remember when I brought these up? You've worked on those. Now I can give you credit for repairing them. So we tell them what we're going to tell them. We coach them on how we're going to coach them, and they're looking to receive information regularly. They're looking to be able to provide information, and just like anybody else, they'll be accepted into the team a lot faster as long as they go with those philosophies and methodologies of communication. And here's another fun one, Todd, is that I give my people permission to complain, and you're probably curious about that. Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that, because a lot of people just want, they just want to be the leader, don't want to hear anything. So how do you foster that? Because there is you're fostering a lot of transparency. So how do you foster that?
Yep, so the permission to complain is different than whining, and I make that in the first 4 hours as well. That is on my philosophies. You are more than welcome to complain. Complain says, hey, boss, I think this is not working. Hey, Ryan, there's some friction over here. Well, if you don't give me a proposed solution, then you're just whining. Right. If you give me a proposal, they say, here's a problem, here's a point of friction or inefficiency, I think we can fix it by doing A or B. Whew, well, I'm all ears, and it goes back to that cycle of I want to listen to your ideas. The other thing too, I also caveat is that, hey, up the leadership team, we have a larger, more 50,000 foot view of the company. And sometimes when you come to something, we might get stuck in the mud because it has to be this way because it affects other portions. So maybe you are experiencing a small piece of a friction in order to alleviate friction for everyone else. And then we really talk about the team mentality, and I play a lot off of metaphors. We talk about like a football metaphor, and sometimes the quarterback throws an interception. Well, his job is not to tackle people, but he might have to right now. So sometimes you might have to tackle somebody when you're not ready to tackle somebody, when you're used to throwing the ball all the time. And when we juggle that way and we point out that I can't make this change, or we can't do this thing that you're pointing out to me because the defense needs it, that expectation from day one deflates people as well. The disgruntled employee, the drop in morale usually is reduced or sometimes just non-existent because of those conversations.
I absolutely love this. Hey, Ryan, we're going to jump to a commercial break, but after the break here, I'm going to ask Ryan to really break down, how do you build your leadership philosophy? Because if you don't provide a target for them to aim to, they're just going to go in any direction they want. But Ryan has laid out, if you're clear, you're transparent, you're open, you provide a place of safety for them to thrive, you're going to get to high performance even faster. Stick with us. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody. And I think you are going to be thankful that you did. I'm going to ask Ryan to walk us through a program that he leads business owner after business owner through, called Business Foundations. And it sets up the target to lead your team into, so they know where you're going, who you are, what they're on mission, what the vision is, what the core values are. And so they know where the direction they're going, so they're not just going off in a million different directions. Let me bring him back on now. Ryan, I can't wait to jump into this, and because you lead, people work with you over and over and over again, specifically in this Business Foundations program. And you said there's four main parts, if I can kind of repeat to you. So this, building your mission statement, building a vision statement, your core values, and then kind of stating what that leadership philosophy is. Do I have the four pillars correct?
You've got it right, yes, sir.
I love that. And one thing that you and I absolutely agree on is, first off, that mission statement, if it's just a placard on the wall, it's absolutely useless. And so I think, especially from your tactical background, talk us through, how do you build a mission statement that becomes tactical and where people can actually get dirt under their fingernails?
Great question, and you said the most important part. This cannot just be a wall hanger. This has to be a workable, livable tool, which means livable, which means when you evaluate it, we recommend annually, it might change. Your vision might slightly adjust, and that's okay. And if you go back to the tactical operations, my mission might be to safely apprehend that really big bad guy in that building, and then I show up and find out he has a partner in there, and now we need to apprehend two bad guys.
Hey, you said something very interesting there. Do you also believe, I have the philosophy that a mission statement is a one-year document, that you have to reevaluate it because you probably have to shift. You've accomplished things, the mission has shifted. Do you kind of have that same philosophy that they're short term, but it's no more than a year?
Yep, absolutely. So as a part of the Business Foundations program, I challenge people to open up their calendar with me and say, what day are we reviewing the mission statement next year? And try to get as close to a calendar date that is 1 year from date of creation. And every year that's going to be recurring, and it could just be an hour on your calendar where you rewrite the sentences. And the mission statement needs to be short and sweet. 1 to 2 sentences. You do not want paragraphs. You do not want overwhelming complexity, because ultimately your clients and your staff need to at least be able to paraphrase it off the top of their heads. They need to know why they're showing up every day, and if they're showing up every day to accomplish like this really convoluted, complex, we pulled out a thesaurus and found some fancy words type of mission statement, they're not likely to memorize it. Right, or a lawyer wrote it. So it has to mean something to you. And it boils down to this. The mission statement, which I believe should be hung in the hallway or in the lobby, ours is in the lobby, it's literally the first line of sight that people see when they walk in our door, is that it has to be a workable tool where people can say, hey, we are showing up to do this. So one of the big points in ours is we want to build a trusted advisory relationships with our clients so they can build and improve upon and then accomplish their personal and business financial goals. So we leverage our expertise, our training, and our staff to get that done. So our mission statement, again, I paraphrased in order to make it really pour out to the client that I'm talking to. And that took me a few hours of development to really point these sentences down, know exactly what do I want my people to do every day. If they're establishing, using their expertise, an advisory relationship with our clients, the mission has been accomplished.
So how do you make it a workable tool? I think that was a key phrase that you had. How do you make it a workable tool rather than a beautiful piece of art?
Wonderful. So tools are meant to be used, right? You can sit here and have the most shiny, beautiful hammer in the world, but if you never get out and hammer nails, it's basically a wall hanger. It's useless. So we take ours out, and in that same first 4 hours, they're getting our mission statement. In every client that we onboard, we have kind of this intro slide when they walk in the room. It's kind of cool, nice little greeting. But the second slide is our mission statement. So our clients know from the second they sit down and I click past that first welcome slide, this is our mission and this is our purpose for talking with you. We want to accomplish this through you. And that is the tool. It's in every conversation with every client when they onboard. It's with every staff member when they onboard. And it's every yearly eval we go through. And in the yearly eval, I redeliver the mission statement, the vision statement, the core values, and that leadership philosophy. There's a little bit of story time with our staff there, and they don't roll their eyes. I tell them just like that, hey, we're gonna play story time. I'm gonna read you the mission again. I'm gonna read you the vision again. And every once in a while, maybe at least a word or two will change to redirect that vision exactly to where we are now.
So it sounds like there's tactical phrasing and then repetition of repeating it, seeing it, using it. It's in customer conversations, it's in personal conversations, it's in review. So making it a working tool is repetition and tactical phrasing. Now that the next part is building a vision. So many people define that different. How do you define the vision statement?
I define it very simply. What do you want to be when you grow up? As an entity, as a team, right? So where do I see myself in 1 year, 3 year, 5 years? Think about when you played soccer in middle school. Did you want to be that varsity soccer player? Well, that's your vision. Now how are you going to get there? Now you build an action plan around it, and that's what makes a tool. And the vision statement is a reminder to get unified support, unified compliance from everybody, that we are all chasing this vision together. So that's another thing that builds your culture. You have to tell this vision to your people. You have to recruit them into the vision and effectively sell it to them over and over again so they know where you're going and they have a shared vision with you. That's what makes it so workable. And again, it gets accomplished by the repetition of working on that mission every day.
So both this mission and the vision statement, those are the corporate statements. Do you ever encourage developing a mission and vision statement for the personal individual team member, or do you keep it on that corporate level?
So we don't do it formally as a new mission statement for a new team just to avoid any type of conflict. But what we have is we have the team mission, the team goal. We'll call that the team purpose, and we'll just change the word mission to purpose. Again, it's a game of semantics, but it keeps the water from getting muddy for what are we talking about in this very big conversation. And the team purpose is you exist in this division, in this branch, and to support the higher mission, your purpose or your cog in the big machine is this right here. So your team knows its purpose inside of the umbrella mission statement.
So they know exactly what their role is, the boundaries, the room that they're operating within, and just that clarity increases the speed to high performance.
Oh, 100%. I won't even say 100%, multiple 100%, 200-300% growth and rapid growth. You know, we were able to, with our team during COVID, during the staffing crisis, using this model, we doubled our staff. We went from 9 to 17. I call that doubled. We had 18, and then we had somebody get married and move away. Fairly normal, but we went and we're running with 17 people now, and we did that during COVID on that team, on that one specific advisory-based team.
It sounds like that even provides that level of safety and transparency that you talked about, even in the first 2 hours of just here's the office and the initial structure. So it still operates in that same vein, the same philosophy. Now, the third part is building out your values, and you said that's the platform that everything's built off of. How do you get more specific than saying excellence? We want excellence.
Right. So if excellence is something that is a value to you, because maybe you're one of those highly competitive, high achieving people, excellence actually may be a value to you, but you have to define what excellence is to you. If I just say excellence, okay, cool, my version of excellence may be different than yours. Maybe my excellent is getting an A and yours is an A plus. Well, I have to define that. And excellence in what? In all things? Well, that's impossible. Excellence in what avenue, what capacity? And so we go out and there's an actual test that I walk people through. And it's got a huge list of terms, and we start limiting the terms, and you go down. Most people have about 10 values that they rely upon every day to make their daily decisions. But when you boil it down, there's truly only 3 core values, and those are the ones that you would live, fight, and die for, right? And those are not going to change, barring some new religion, some traumatic life experience, something like that. Then maybe your core values might change. But finding those and defining them allows you to then use your core values to accomplish your mission. Use your core values to build your team. Use your core values to get that vision executed over time. And if you step outside of your core values, your relationships will have friction, your company will have friction, your mission will fail, and your vision will be prolonged or defeated. So you must adhere to your core values, or you're basically cheating and fighting against yourself.
Yeah, I read here recently that all problems are actually interpersonal problems. And so defining your values actually begins to lead you in the direction and identify who you really want to be. Now, real quickly, Ryan, the fourth part really comes into your philosophy, a lot of your philosophies and principles and idiosyncrasies that you developed over the years. Real briefly, walk me through kind of some of those.
Sure. So the leadership philosophy, like we talked in the last segment, is the delivery point where all of these things come together. You define your definition of leadership, because mine may be slightly different than yours. Then you define and you go through in bullet point, drawn out format, my expectations, and then you go my responsibilities. So my people also say, hey, if your responsibility is to do this, you're allowed to call me out on it when I fail or do it wrong, right? Of course, respectfully. And then we go into a couple of boundaries, and I talked about, again, one of the expectations is having complete and truthful and accurate information. And then we go through mistakes and taking mistakes, and it's okay for you to make mistakes. I'm gonna let you down. At some point, you're gonna let me down. But negligence, disobedience, and some type of wanton conduct, that's not a mistake, so we identify that. And then it all points at the vision, and the reason is we have these priorities. And my priority, first and foremost, should not be to make money or to accomplish a mission, believe it or not. It should be to support a healthy staff and a healthy human. If you don't have healthy people, you can never accomplish your mission. You can never truly grow. So my priority is that first, and then the mission statement, and then a couple of other priorities I put on there. And then there's a commitment statement to all of this, and then I sign it. And I give it to them on their first day in their first 4 hours.
There's so much intentionality, or as you say, deliberateness in building out this whole structure, and that's why there's such a benefit in actually working with you to help walk through this process. Because there's a lot to this, building out the structure, but that intentional approach will increase the speed to high performance. Thank you so much for this time, Ryan. I really do appreciate kind of you opening up your workbook and sharing that with us.
It has been my pleasure. Thank you, Todd.
All right, everybody, stick with us after this break. We're going to talk more about how to increase the speed of high performance, how to build a high performing team. Stick with us. All right, welcome back, everybody. I really enjoyed what Ryan had to talk about with those initial hours of really setting the standards and setting the expectations. And those really are critical actions to setting up that high-performing team. Now, I want to take you a little bit out of context, really out of the corporate environment. My next guest is from the education world. He's a consultant to different independent school districts, and he'll meet with administrators and principals, and he'll talk about the culture and help them move their ball forward. Now, here's the problem. Here's the very interesting thing. In today's education, man, it's hard to be a teacher. And what that creates is there's a lot of teacher turnover. And there's a lot of teachers moving from this grade level to this grade level, moving from this school to that school. So the high performing teams that's necessary is constantly in flux. It's constantly year to year, contract year to contract year. It is always changing. So there's always this rapid need to build a new high performing team as rapidly as possible. So let me bring my guest on. Dr. Q, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. A pleasure to be here.
I love this perspective because, the education system, there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot at stake. And just like the corporate world, there's some really high bars that are laid out that a team has to rally around in order to reach. Like you told me about one district that they want all their kids to be reading 2 years above grade level. That's a huge challenge. So with this problem of constant turnover and the teams are always in flux, how do you do it?
Well, let's talk about that district that you're talking about, because they have done a fantastic job of really creating this new culture and this new climate. And for example, they've taken the name of their mascot, and for every letter in that word, they've created a statement how they want their employees to act and how they want students to behave. So it's kind of it's throwing out some expectations and standards to staff and to students, and saying, hey, if you want to attend our school district, we expect you to, behave a certain way. We expect you to be a team player, or we expect you to be looking out for others, and we expect you to be, to work hard and obviously we expect you to do your work. And so, and they didn't just say it, they wrote all this stuff down. When you walk in the hallways of the campuses, you will see these the posters, banners on the walls throughout the campuses. So it's very powerful to see that messaging, and it's almost like a branding.
It is. And it goes so far beyond just your initial orientation or onboarding, where of course you go, here's our goals, here's how we do it. But it's that constant visual reminder right in front of you from the very beginning, and you see it every day. Here's our norms, values, expectations. And I like that picture of branding. So is there more detail? I mean, how do they come to that conclusion? Is it about the leadership just setting that clear vision front and center from the very beginning?
Absolutely. And so it's almost ironic that if you want to have a solid team, it goes back to leadership, because leadership kind of helps drive, who you are as a group or as a school district. And it also tells you who you aren't. What are you going to do? What are you not going to do? Who are you going to be? And we talk about this all the time. Simon Sinek, he tells us why. And so as a leadership team, you really want to help people understand, this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. And when you make that crystal clear, when you make the what, how, and why crystal clear, you are going to have teams that thrive, because it answers all the questions. It takes all the doubt out of the, out of the picture when you're doing that. And a second point, processes, systems, when those are embedded and when those are created, teachers know what to do in the classroom. They know what to do. They know how to do, and they understand why. Principals understand what to do, how to do. They understand the why. And all of that goes up all the way from the superintendent all the way back down to the student level.
That's a very interesting point about the processes. So the new team member coming in, they're not having to figure out, how do I do this? How do I accomplish this task? The processes create the railway for them to drive on and ride on immediately. So it's a plug and play scenario.
Absolutely. The good districts out there, the quality districts out there, they have the processes and systems in place. The struggling districts are the ones that really don't have processes and systems. They're just kind of floating through life, so to speak. And until they start putting in processes and systems, they're not going to continue to thrive. And you mentioned teacher turnover. That's a huge concern in Texas right now, and obviously nationwide. Mm-hmm. But as teachers are coming in and out, and they're leaving education, or as you mentioned, they're going to a new campus, or they're going to a new grade level, or maybe even a new content area. It is so beneficial to as a new teacher coming into a new scenario, what are the systems and processes you have in place? If you don't have them, that means I have to figure it out. And I'm already nervous coming into a new school. I've got to start learning student names. I got to start learning who are my colleagues. I got to start figuring out what's the climate and culture of my new campus. I got to start figuring out how do I keep my principal happy. So there's so much new that if you also throw on, okay, well, you have to figure it out. You have to figure out the process. You have to figure out the system. Man, you're throwing a lot on me. And let's be honest, teachers start just a few days before the students do.
Yeah.
There ain't enough time. There's not enough time to figure all that out.
That really brings out a great principle as a leader. If I understand the other dynamics that new team member is going to be going through, of all the interpersonal relationships, of all the all the expectations and the pressure being placed on them, then it leads to the question: what can I set up ahead of time to ease their brain activity, to allow them to focus, to simplify the task? Would that be the key question?
Oh man, that's powerful, because you're going right into my next talking point, because we want our teachers to be creative. We want them to be instructional experts. We want them to take that curriculum that we're giving them, and then they're doing what they do with it to do the best job they can be. But that creativity is only going to come from when I'm in a safe place. If I'm not in a safe space, then I'm in that fight or flight mode, and I'm just not going to be able to think creatively to help engage students into learning. Why? Because I'm so focused on, I've got to do this, I've got to figure this out, I've got to figure this out. And so there's so much prep work into teaching and learning that I'm going to get stuck on the back side of teaching and learning, and not on the front side of teaching and learning.
That is a brilliant picture, on the back side instead of the front side. So what, as the leader, can we do to free that person's mind up, to create more, I guess, habitual behavior, to move the critical actions and tasks into habit as quickly as possible, or natural flow, so that their brains can slow down and they can actually be in the moment? I love this safety. I love the safety thing you brought up. That is absolutely brilliant.
Well, let me give you a real life scenario, and this actually this is more on the student behavior, / discipline side of school. But a lot of schools don't tell teachers up front, hey, this is a list of behaviors we expect you to manage in the classroom, but these behaviors over here, we expect those to be office referrals. And so when a school says or declares that to a teacher, oh my gosh, you mean I have 2 lists to go by, and I don't have to create the list, and I don't have to decide, is this teacher managed or is it an office referral? That decision has already been made. And so I'm coming in with clarity. I'm coming in with some systems and some processes in place that I'm not having to create. I'm not having to reinvent that wheel. Yeah. So now I've got brain power. I've got some brain power to go reinvent another wheel. And hopefully that is on the teaching and learning side.
I love it. This goes so much into situational leadership on the front end, really walking through and limiting the amount of choices that person has to make in the moment. So pre-planning the actions ahead of time so it can really slow down and simplify their brains. Because I love this picture that you're laying out. When the leader is aware of the chaos, then they know they need to simplify it. They know they need to calm things down. And so that really brings that safety and the procedures and the where we're going is critically important. Hey, Dr. Q, I want to keep sticking in with this and get deeper into this, because I know there's so much turnover. There's more aspects to how to build these teams. Will you stick with us after the break?
Of course. Thank you.
All right, everybody, stick with this. I mean, this education system can get so tricky, especially with all of the turnover, and really, there's so much at stake. We've got to help the children. It's all about the children. So anyway, stick with us after this break. Let's get more into it on how these teachers stay effective with all the turnover that they have to deal with. Stick with us. All right, everybody, let's jump right into this education system. I love taking things out of context and learning from those environments so that we can take those principles into our environments. We're looking for intentional communication. And if you're not intentional in the educational system as it is today, with all of the chaos, with so many kids coming through and with all the issues that at play, if you're not intentional, it's going to be a train wreck. So let me bring Dr. Q back on. Dr. Q, okay, so with all the turnover that's taking place from contract year to contract year, that teacher may be with a completely different team. I mean, and you never know what you're going to get. You're going to get some oddballs. So talk about this team unity a little bit, about that initial mesh.
Absolutely. So, in the education world, we're not working in silos. We're working in teams. So let's say it's a group of kindergarten teachers or a group of English teachers at a secondary campus. But the idea is that, the old saying, team, together, everyone achieves more. And that is so true, because we all bring something to the table, different and unique. We all have different interests. We have teachers that are 30-year veterans, and we have the rookies that are in their first year, and everybody has value, and everybody brings new fresh ideas to the table. Some teachers are really good with technology, others are not so good, and so again, you're sharing ideas. There's always something new and innovative out there in our schools and on the horizon, and so we're trying to grow and adapt, and that's a big piece of good teams. Good teams grow and adapt with each other, and just obviously as the individual with themselves. So,
it's interesting though. I like the picture you laid out with, you've got the veteran and then you've got the new person, and you got the rookie who they just started out. They're excited about the job, but eventually the honeymoon ends. As my dad always said, the honey runs out and the moon goes down. So how do you keep spirits up, morale? High performance is about the long run. So how do you keep this engine rolling?
Yeah, absolutely. So a school year is, at least 180 days. So it's a long,
surrounded by these kids.
Right. So it's a long year, and morale is always going to be a challenge at schools. And so, you want to be recognizing and rewarding that performance. And, the paycheck is nice, but let's be honest, handwritten notes are powerful. Verbal compliments in front of the staff can be powerful. Now we don't want to embarrass anybody, so we kind of got to, we want to be careful about that. But when good people are doing good things, we need to recognize that and encourage that. And I'll give you a good example. I was as a principal, I was in a principal's meeting, and we were just kind of talking about a variety of things. And one thing that I was good at, we had this phone system where I could record a message and then send it out to all my parents. Basically I made one phone call, and somehow the technology magically called, 400 parents with my message. And I was really good at that. I did that weekly. I kept parents informed. Hey, this is what's happening this week. And some of the other principals weren't as good as that, weren't so good at that. So a principal asks the superintendent a question about that phone system, and the superintendent said, I don't know, but I know Quentin knows. You need to talk to him, because he sent out, and he looked at the paper, he has sent out 220 messages this year. That's pretty powerful. Go talk to him.
Yeah. Just those, you got to be sensitive to how that person's going to receive it. Everybody receives that information differently, but the intentional action of encouragement, the intentional action of spurring people on, giving them acknowledgement and recognition in a classy way, in front of other people, is vitally important. So in this unique education environment, what else is critical to building a high performing team?
Yeah. So I think another thing is, going back to processes and systems, but also being able to adjust and, again, grow and adapt, because we're constantly learning, hey, this didn't work, or this did work. Hey, let's do this again. Let's try that. Or, we're trying a new technology piece, and maybe it didn't work, or maybe it did work, and the kids got excited about it. And it's like, hey, let's do that again. So we find things that work, and we find things that don't work. And obviously we're just learning and growing. We learn from doing. So we just keep experimenting, and we keep trying different things. I think that's a huge part of it. Let me talk about the importance of training, because so many times, and I remember my first couple of years of teaching, I was literally, here's your keys to your classroom. Here's the textbook, good luck. And so fortunately, we don't do that. We don't do that so much anymore. But those early years were pretty tough, because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I wasn't being given a whole lot of guidance. And so training is crucial for everybody. I don't care if you're a 30-year veteran or a first-year rookie, but you've got to have some training. And it could be something as simple as how to work the grade book, or actually getting into some more important pieces like the curriculum.
Is this early training, or just ongoing, making sure that it's ongoing?
Yeah, it's ongoing. And I'll tell you a common mistake that I see in the onboarding process. You've got what's called new teacher orientation, and it's usually two days long. And these new teachers are just bombarded with, hey, we use this system, we use this system for this, we use this for your grade book, we use this for attendance, we use this for behavior discipline, we use this. And yes, they're being trained how to use it, but they're getting whammied with 12, 15 systems in 2 days. And you and I know how that goes.
Yeah.
I just learned the 12th system. I don't remember what the first system was.
That's right. Yeah.
So training has to be applicable in the moment. When would be a good time to train me on the grade book? The best time to train me on the grade book is when I'm about to go into the grade book and enter a grade.
Yeah.
Not 10 days before the school year starts, because I'm probably not going to remember 10 days later, go here, click here, click here, click here. Okay, this is where you enter your grades. So even if the leader does set that training on the front end, I think you really set a great point of being mindful as the leader to have on the spot, in the moment, retrainings a lot of times, the reminders, because that's when it's going to be most effective. Now, I wanted to give you a curveball real quick, Dr. Q. So I work with a lot of recovering control freaks. And so many leaders, they want to build that high performing team by being the most dominant person in the room, by controlling everything and just micromanaging and feeling like a person is just under the microscope. Have you ever seen that? Unfortunately, I have. I've worked for a few of those, and I've worked for some great ones where they've let me do my job, and they were there to support me. Okay. If I made a mistake, they were there to support and guide and correct. But I've had some really fantastic superintendents as a principal, and obviously as a teacher, had some really good principals that really let me, you know what, we expect you to do your job. And Obviously, I'm here to help you and train, offer training, going back to that piece. And again, support, and we're going to guide you. We're going to correct you. But micromanaging is not the answer. That's going to stifle my creativity. I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to feel like, I'm a failure, or I'm going to be, I'm just going to kind of be in that fight or flight mode. Like I don't really, and I'll be honest with you. As a principal, I had a superintendent, man, I got to a place where I was second guessing every decision I made, and it just made for a miserable year.
And as you described that, it really sets up a interesting position, a juxtaposition of, it's not the leader standing over someone that's effective. It's standing beside someone, shoulder to shoulder. So like you said, when you're in that moment, you can reteach and not go, I already talked to you about this. Don't you? And then that control freak they want to go, don't you remember that we discussed this at the early on training? Yes, right. But good Lord, there was so much information. So the effective leader, like you're saying, is someone who's side by side, ready to reteach, and really saying it's okay to reteach.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm just like anybody else. I got to hear it 2, 3, 7 times, before it sinks in. I remember very specifically leading a small group of teachers having a conversation about what's called MTSS, and I had said a statement that I had said many times, and the teacher goes, "Wait, what? What'd you just say?"
Yeah,
and I said it again, and she goes, "I get it."
Oh, and that
she had heard me say that same statement 10, 12, 20 times, but I will never forget that moment and the look on her face because she was like, I get it now.
And really, that's what we're looking for as leaders, because you don't get those aha moments in those early trainings. But when you are shoulder to shoulder and you're walking with them in the process, you get those aha moments. So, Dr. Q, thank you for shining some light in this unique situation so we can take some of these principles with us. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing your wisdom with us.
Absolutely. Appreciate you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. That's all the time we have for this week. I hope this was valuable to you. I love the different contexts and even the controlled corporate environments like Ryan was talking about, the intentional steps that you need to take. That's it for this week. We'll see you next Friday.
This has been a Now Media Network